We've got 7 different stories to cover from 7 different media outlets. It is time for another episode of the World's News Round. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another premiere video of the World's News Round, where I cover various different stories from outside the UK. I've got 7 stories here to cover. We do in roughly about an hour or more here. So 7 normally I do 6, but I'm going to be doing 7 for you guys here, as it is the first premiere video of the World's News Round in 2025. So the 7 stories I've got for you, the first one we'll be covering will be from Al Jazeera on Israeli attacks killed dozens in Gaza as the ceasefire talks resume in Qatar. French and German foreign ministers meet Syria's new leader in the first high-level EU visit since Assad's toppling. That will be from CNN. Next one we will look at is from the Association Press, where Republican trust in accuracy of US elections jumps after Trump's win and AP-NORC poll finds. We'll talk about that a bit later. Then we will cover a story from Euronews where Poland uninvites Hungarian envoy from EU presidency gala over political asylum spat. I think I've talked about this before, but we'll bring that up again later. We'll also look at a story from RTE News looking at over 15,000 access emergency accommodations in November. That is in Ireland with regards to homelessness, which is a big issue in Ireland. We will get to that. And we'll also look at one of the latest stories from the Kiev Independent, where a Russian attack against Ukraine kills 2 and injures at least 13 over the past day. That'll be from the Kiev Independent. And then finally, we'll round off with a story from the BBC on Venezuela offers a reward for its candidate's arrest, and we'll come to that story much later on. We also have 2 funny videos in between to help break the ice a little bit as we go along here as well. Just a reminder, hit the like button, share this across social media. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing as well. Let's get started with the first story here, and that is from Al Jazeera. So the headline here is oh, 1 second. For some reason, the let me just fix, do a tiny little fix for you guys. 1 tiny little second. There we go. For some reason, it wasn't at full screen. There we go. The headline is Israeli attack kills dozens in Gaza as the ceasefire talks resume in Qatar. The Israeli attack killed dozens of people in Gaza as indirect Hamas-Israel ceasefire talks resume in Qatar. So they look like Israel willing to get round the table again. Now, whether they actually will get what they want, I don't know. Hamas, at this point, are quite desperate. And I actually do think they are a bit desperate at this point to get some kind of ceasefire at some point, because there's so much suffering, insufferable suffering right now. And the very possibility of Donald Trump coming in means that things could get a hell of a lot worse before they get better now. With what's coming with a Trump administration, and while there is very little or no sympathy for Hamas because of what they did on October the 7th, of course there is a lot of sympathy and a lot of outrage and outcry from people with common sense about how Palestinians in particular are being treated inside Gaza, and there is this need, desperate need for a ceasefire, desperately needed. And it's this constant attack, this constant destruction of Gaza is also seriously damaging Israel's reputation. It's also hurting their economy as well. Many people feel a great deal of disdain towards Israel, and yet they are protected by their big buddies America, and there doesn't seem to be anything really being done about what's going on here. Now, I'd like to think that this ceasefire talks, something will come of it. I'm not going to hold my breath. And a part of me just feels like they're just saying this to make it look like, yeah, we're going to get round the table, we're going to do something this time. And to me, that's just how I generally feel that it is. I generally don't see this as a case of, like, we're really serious about this. We really are going to have serious talks on this. I really don't buy this for 1 second. So dozens of Palestinians have been killed in multiple Israeli attacks on Gaza hospital, staff said, as high negotiators prepared to resume stalled ceasefire talks. Staff at the Al-Asida Martyr Hospital in central Gaza said on Friday that more than a dozen women and children were among those killed in attacks on the Nasrallah refugee camp, Al-Zawadi Masri camp and Deli al-Bashir in central Gaza. In Gaza City alone, at least 30 people in Israeli attacks of Palestinian civil defense said in a statement. Among them were 3 children who died when their home was struck in the vicinity of Al-Shamia morgue in Gaza City's Zenaton neighborhood. Many children have died. Women and children have died as a direct result of decisions and actions that Israel and the IDF have made. By them, not by Hamas, by them. In southern Gaza, the civil defense said its team recovered the bodies of 2 Palestinians who were killed in an attack in Kibbutz al-Ades area near Rafka, while 2 others were injured and taken to a nearby Nasir hospital. Medical sources in the enclave told Al Jazeera at least 52 Palestinians were killed across the Gaza Strip on Friday. Israeli jets destroyed buildings in the center of the Strip, killing journalist Omar al-Daruski in his home Al-Nazawada, the second journalist to be killed in 24 hours. And on Thursday, it was confirmed that photographer Hassan Ali Kowalski had been killed in an Israeli attack. See, another. What was the reason here? Let me guess. Another Hamas terrorist. They're going to claim. Following the deaths, Gaza's government media office revised the numbers of journalists killed in the enclave since the beginning of the nearly 15-month war to 202. And meanwhile, Israel pressed on with a renewed military offensive in the north of Gaza, with Al Jazeera's Tariq Adu-Azim reporting that Israeli forces ordered the immediate evacuation of the Indian hospital in Beit Larita, and at least 25 patients were trapped inside the hospital, along with medical staff, according to people inside who spoke to Al Jazeera. Israeli soldiers have surrounded the facility and are firing at it, they said. Why? On what reason are they attacking this hospital? Yeah. There's no enemies there. This is the intent of killing this. Their intention is to kill off the Palestinian people. Hamas slammed Israel's attack on the hospital in a statement, calling it a war crime and part of Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza. Meanwhile, Israelis also woke up to an attack early on Friday morning, with the army intercepting a missile reportedly fired from Yemen, where it set off air raid sirens in Jerusalem and central Israel. As the attacks continue, a new round of indirect talks on a ceasefire in Gaza resumed in the capital Doha, a senior Hamas official has said. Beni Nasrin stressed the group's seriousness in seeking to reach a deal as soon as possible. The new talks will focus on agreeing a permanent ceasefire and the withdrawal of Israeli forces, he said, as well as ensuring the return of displaced family to their homes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said earlier that he had authorized a delegation from the Moscow Intelligence Agency, the shared Bet Internal Security Agency, and the military to continue negotiations in Qatar. Sami Al-Darani, director of the Center for Islam and Global Affairs at Istanbul Sadabom Zanim University, if I mispronounce names, I apologize, said Hamas could be willing to walk back one of its key demands, the immediate withdrawal of all Israeli forces in Gaza. They are desperate, Hamas, on this. There have been a lot of pressure from the mediators, particularly the Qataris and Egyptians, to be flexible on these terms, he told Al Jazeera. They have assured the resistance, Hamas and other groups, that eventually Israel will withdraw, he said. They are lying. Israel will never withdraw from Gaza. They will never withdraw from Gaza. But Ori Goldberg, a Tel Aviv-based political analyst, told Al Jazeera he does not see any grounds for optimism that a ceasefire will be agreed upon at the talks amid a lack of significant international pressure being applied on either side. And this is... no one's applying pressure on Israel at all. That's the problem here. To the best of my knowledge, Hamas is interested in a deal, but not excessively, because its recruitment rates are rising the longer Israel continues its genocide in Gaza, he said. Certainly, the Israeli public is interested in a deal, but the Israeli government not so much. The war serves its interests, he said. Key mediators, Qatar, Egypt and the US, have been attempting to secure a lasting deal in direct talks for months. And so far, 658 Palestinians have been killed and 108,000 wounded in Gaza since Israel began its war in the enclave on October the 7th. It is entirely possible that by the end of this year we could reach 100,000 deaths. Just 100,000. 100,000 people. Now some people will argue, well, some of them are Hamas, but it's just not right. The war has caused widespread destruction and displaced some 90% of Gaza's population of 2.3 million, many of them multiple times. Hamas-led forces killed some 1,139 people. Yeah, so they've killed nearly up to 50,000 Palestinians And 1,039 people in Israel have died, and 250 captives. I don't care what the numbers are. Every single life matters. Both sides of the lives here matter. There's no justification for what Israel are doing. About 100 captives are still in Gaza, although at least a third of them are believed to be dead. Yeah, some of the captives have been killed. We know that. I mean, be clear here. I do not in any way approve of what Hamas did on October the 7th. What they did on October the 7th was absolutely disgusting and horrific. However, the way that Israel have responded has been nothing short of disgusting, and damning. And I don't expect anything to come out of these talks at all. Of course, I will keep an eye on it, but do I expect something to come from this? No. I think Hamas need to keep their red lines clear in basically saying Israel must withdraw completely from Gaza. I think that's a line they cannot allow Israel to stay in there. They just cannot be trusted. The damage that they are doing inside Gaza is just, it's just absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. And it's embedded into them, into what they think they're doing is justified in some way, shape or form. And I'm here to tell you it's not. There is no justification for it. There's no justification for what Hamas did, but it does not give Israel the right to do what they are doing. This is not them. It's no longer a point of them the right to defend themselves. It is complete. It is pretty much wiping out an entire civilization. That is what they are doing. That is what they are doing, and we can see it time and time again. There's more than enough. I've covered numerous videos showing what they are doing. I've covered enough stories, enough people speaking about it to know of what they are doing. Moving away from Israel and Gaza, we're moving to Syria here. Interesting one from CNN, you guys. So the French and German foreign ministers meet Syria's new leader in the first high-level EU visit since Assad's topping. This is obviously quite significant that two European foreign ministers meeting with Assad. This is a big significance, obviously, in terms of Syria's future relationship with the world, or in particular with the West, and seeing what becomes of Syria and how they move forward with that. It will be very interesting indeed to see how they do. I'm sure it'll just be preliminary talks. There'll be nothing really too big coming out of it. But there is also that possibility that until they actually have elections, until a proper government is in place, because this is going to be like a caretaker government initially, it's just a lot of preliminary talks. But there'll be a lot of Western influence trying to meddle in this government affairs as well, because that's what they do as well. So I'm sure this new Syrian regime will be very cautious of that as well. So the French and German foreign minister have met Syria's new leaders and called for an inclusive transition of power in the first visit by European Union ministers to Syria since the Assad regime fell in December. So France's Jean-Noel Barrot was in the Syrian capital Damascus alongside his German counterpart Anita Bobok when they met Syria's de facto leader Ahmed al-Sharidi, formerly known as Abu Muhammad Ali. Shalah HDF led the rebellion that toppled Assad and his group that sought to distance itself from its past affiliation with al-Qaeda. Baerbock said that she was travelling to Syria with an outstretched hand, according to Reuters, but added that she was also keeping HDF past in mind. The European delegation signalled an openness to work with the new government, while at the same time stressed the need to protect minorities. It's time for Syrians to reclaim their own country with a political transition that allows all of Syrians' diverse communities to be represented, and that allows for all Syrians to be granted Syrian citizenship without religious or gender discrimination, Barrett said on Friday ahead of the meeting. To that end, we are offering Syria transitional authorities, France and the EU traditional expenditures, its technical expertise to assist the Syrian people in the drafting of this new constitution, he said. Baerbock shared similar sentiment in a post on X, writing that there can only be a new beginning if all Syrians, regardless of their ethnic or religious group, are given a place in the political process. After a meeting with Shariga, Baerbock said, after years of oppression, torture and war, the people of Syria have turned over a new leaf in their country. He said that their visit to Syria with Barrett was a strong signal that a political new beginning is a possibility now, adding that the EU will do everything to help and Syria become a free and safe country for all, including women. Women's rights are a yardstick for the future for everyone in a free society, she said, emphasizing that Europe would not be a financier or of Islamic structures. So Interesting. French Foreign Minister and Jean Barrett met with the Greek Orthodox Paradon Antique in the All East there. This is in Syria there. So they had interesting discussion, I think it's fair to say. So while in Syria, Barak and Barabok visit the infamous Saida prison, which was known for the arbitrary detention, torture and murder that occurred within its walls. Barak said that he and Barak were emotionally struck by the barbarism we discovered in the concentration camp style of hell of the prison. Syria cannot rise above if justice is not served. Therefore, as of today, we are offering the transitional authorities, France technical experts, to continue the struggle against impunity to help achieve transitional justice, as we have done for many, many years already, he said. Berbuk urged the international community to help to bring justice to people who have suffered here in this prison of hell, according to rhetorics. The French Foreign Minister also said he will recommend Syria's new transitional government calls on the organisation for the provision of chemical weapons, so a team can be quickly sent to Syria to start assessing the proceed with the elimination of chemical weapons. I do hope that they're generally interested in wiping out chemical weapons. I don't know whether they are or not. They may say something publicly about it, but they may say something differently privately about it. So I would say that with a degree of caution with that. I mean, on the front of it, we know that they seem like the right people for this. It seems like that on the front of it, but we honestly just don't know. And we're going to see over time. And I think 2025 will show us what kind of Syrian government, what kind of country Syria is going to be. Over the next several months, we're going to start seeing that, because as time goes on, we will see more and more of how they develop and how they process things. You know, it's going to be very, very weird to see where they go. I mean, I know some people have said that we're going to get another full-blown civil war. I hope not, but we can only hope that that does not happen, and that actually transitions into some kind of democracy or something that the Syrian people want, that all Syrians want. I'm holding my breath a bit on that, but it is something that I really just hope does come to pass. But we will have to wait and see as time goes on. But it's interesting to see that obviously foreign diplomats have gone to Damascus and actually met those in charge now. So it's a step in the right direction. When it's going to be the first political leader to go there will be interesting as well. It'll be interesting to see who does that. The next story I've got for you guys is from the Associated Press with regards to America's election. So Republicans' trust in accuracy of the US elections jumps after Trump's win, AP-NORC poll finds. It's funny that because Republicans won, they now all of a sudden believe in the electoral system, whereas before the election they didn't trust the system. It's almost as if they did a massive U-turn. No, in that everyone who said that the election was rigged or stolen, it all appears as if they completely forgotten about it. You know, it's almost as if that kind of rhetoric doesn't matter now. You know, well, it does, because you set a precedent, and because you set that precedent, and because it went the way that you want it, now you're saying everything is fine. Like, they're going to call rigged election no matter what happens at the midterms or at the next presidential election. If it doesn't go Republicans' way, they're going to call foul play in some way, shape, or form. That's what they're going to do. They're going to call foul play in one way or another on this. It's just quite embarrassing that they're now saying, yeah, it was all fine, it was perfect, it was a perfect election, it was perfect voting, there was no rigging whatsoever, everyone knew exactly what they were voting for. Yeah, okay. Who's really going to buy into that? A majority of Republicans say they are confident in the 2024 vote count after Donald Trump's win, according to a new poll that finds a sharp turnaround from GOP's voter skepticism about US elections after the president-elect spent 4 years lying about his loss to President Joe Biden. About 6 in 10 Republicans said they have a great deal or quite a bit of confidence that the voters in last year's presidential election were counted correctly nationwide, according to the poll from the Associated Press NORC Center for Public Affairs Research. That's a sharp rise from about 2 in 10 Republicans who were confident in an AP-NORC poll in October. And about 2/3 of Republicans in the new survey said they were confident in their state vote count, up from about 4 in 10 before the election. So is the election confidence jump among Republicans here. So you have percentage with confidence in the accuracy of the national vote count in the 2024 election for those who took part in this. US adults, Republicans and Democrats there. So the black square is a great deal or quite a bit, moderate amount there, and only a little or none at all in terms of that. So US adults overall, December and October, pretty much had a great deal or quite a bit of confidence, much higher there. In December and October, it's funny how in October 23% Republicans, and all of a sudden, oh no 64%, no, we're pretty confident with it now because of the outcome. There, and 45% had little or no confidence, and now 11%. It's absolutely ridiculous. Democrats, 72%. So even before, they had very much confidence in it, and they still have confidence in the electoral, still 60%. Like, it has dropped, but they still have confidence in the electoral system. They still have confidence in it, even after that. So it just shows you just how quickly people switch over Republicans there, according to this poll anyway. That helps drive up the share of Americans saying that they have a great deal or quite a bit of confidence in the accuracy of the election to about 6 in 10. That's higher than in October, where roughly half of Americans say they were highly confident the votes would be counted accurately. The move is subsequently different than what it was 4 years ago, when Trump supporters, fueled by his false claim of stolen election, assaulted police and smashed their way into the US Capitol on the 6th of January 2021 to interrupt the certification of Biden's victory. Weeks later, an AP-NORC poll found that about 2/3 of Republicans said Biden was not legitimately elected president. That belief persisted throughout Biden's presidency until last year's election, as Trump continued to sow doubts about the accuracy of US elections. He even did so on election day in the hours before it was clear he would win. But since Trump's victory in November, Republicans' suspicions about election security at all levels, including confidence in their own election officials, have ebbed substantially. Yeah, because it went their way, so they're happy. If it didn't go their way, it's rigged. Throw their dolls out their prams. Crybabies is what they will do. There were no indications of trouble before the election, despite Trump's attempts to lay the groundwork to challenge the accuracy of the count if he lost the vote. Nor were there any real questions over the integrity of the 2020 count, which was confirmed by a wide range of state audits, recounts, and reviews, some of which were led by Republicans, including Trump's own Department of Justice. Threats towards local election officials soared after 2020, leading a wave of veteran administrators leaving office, in a potential sign that those hostilities might ease. The poll found that about 7 in 10 Americans have a great deal or quite a bit of confidence that votes in the 2024 presidential election were counted accurately by their local election officials, up from about 6 in 10 in October. That movement was almost entirely driven by Republicans. About 7 in 10 were highly confident in local official counts in December, compared with about half in October. One group's confidence in the integrity of the election ticked down: Democrats. Their confidence in the national vote count declined from about 7 in 10 to about 6 in 10, although their certainty in the accuracy of the state vote counts remains stable. Still, the dip in Democratic confidence is nowhere near the scale of skepticism among Republicans after Trump's defeat in 2020. The Democratic candidate, Vice President Kamala Harris, conceded her loss to Trump the day after Election Day, and there has been no organized Democratic effort to prevent the handover of the presidency to Trump, as there were some conservatives in 2020 trying to block Biden from ascending to the presidency. The AP-NORC poll of 1,251 adults were conducted on December the 5th and 9th, 2024, using a sample drawn from the NORC's probability-based Amerispeak panel, which is designed to be representative of the US population. The margin of sampling error for adults overall is plus or minus 3.7 percentage points. But with all polls and whatnot, I always say to take them with a pinch of salt. But when it comes to Republicans, and you see this, you know, you can't tell me that there's not something wrong here. Like, it's just like for me, it's a case of they're just buying. They'll just believe anything. They'll jump into anything at this point. They really, really will, before saying that there's something wrong with their election. Unless they were saying there's not something wrong with their election, unless it doesn't go the way they want. You know, there are winners and losers in life, and sometimes if the team you're behind doesn't win, you're not going to call. You don't call foul play. It's a case of you lost, get over it, accept the defeat. You know, when you're a fan of a football team or soccer team, whatever, you know, sports team, when they lose, you know, you're upset about it, you're frustrated, but you don't call the game rigged, unless of course there's actual evidence to support it, which there hasn't been evidence to support rigging in the US election that I've seen, or any accuracies whatsoever. But you're going to get people making that claim either way, which is really, really frustrating to say the least, you guys. So moving away from America, we're going back to Europe. When I say back to Europe, we haven't been to Europe yet. A very interesting piece here from Euro News. So the headline here is Poland uninvites Hungarian envoy from EU presidency gala over political asylum spat. So let me read into this before I give my thoughts. So ties between Warsaw and Budapest soured further last month after Polish fugitive lawmaker Marcin Romanowski was granted asylum in Hungary. Poland has uninvited Hungary's ambassador to Friday's inaugural gala of Warsaw's EU presidency, following a diplomatic spat over political asylum, a Polish minister has said. Budapest last month granted a political asylum to Poland's former Deputy Justice Minister Marcin Romanowski, provoking the wrath of Warsaw, which it called a hostile act. Romanowski, a lawmaker with the Nationalist Opposition Law and Justice PIS party, is facing 11 charges by Polish prosecutors for misuse of public funds, and a Warsaw court last month issued a European arrest warrant against him. Poland last week said it would take Hungary to the European Court of Justice if it does not comply with the warrant. The incident is the latest blow to the relationship between the two EU members, which was previously strong due to shared views on migration and the blog, but has increasingly soured over Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. So the question really we have to ask ourselves is what are Hungary gaining from holding on to this person? Why are Hungary doing this? Well, we know that Hungary have more favourable relationship with Putin. We know that Viktor Orban has met Russian President Vladimir Putin as well. He's had conversations with him. We know there's a relationship there. Everyone knows there's a relationship there. And it's been very, very much highlighted here. Hungary are very much on a different tail end to, I would say the majority of European nations are against Russia, but there are one or two, them, Slovakia, another one obviously that's gone down the wrong path as well. But what is their benefit to holding on to him, apart from upsetting Poland and the rest of their European allies here? Poland is taking the leadership of the Council of the EU's rotating presidency from Hungary and kicking it off with an event at Warsaw's Grand Theatre on Friday. When we invite guests to our gala almost a month ago, we invited the entire diplomatic corps. Poland's Deputy Minister of European Affairs, I'm not going to say that name because I'm going to butcher it. But after the situation, Minister Romanowski, Foreign Affairs, Minister Radosław Sikorski decided that Hungarian ambassador is not a welcome guest in the theatre today, he said in an interview with Polish public news channel TVP Info. The Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban is also not welcome at the ceremony, as he said as well. Since Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk and his centrist coalition took power in December 2023, ties with Hungary have nosedived. Warsaw, a staunch ally of Kiev, has been publicly critical of Budapest for its relationship with Moscow, while Orban has accused Poland of hypocrisy over its stance on Russia's war and said Tusk's government sees Hungarians as enemies. Another bone contention has been Poland's pro-EU position under Tusk, coming after the PIS Euroscepticism in the face of rising anti-EU rhetoric and threats from Orban. Despite Hungary's EU presidency, Orban repeatedly denounced the blog's sanctions against Russia and went on a highly criticised visit to Moscow, where he met Russian President Vladimir Putin what he called a peace mission. Orban also came under fire from European Parliament after meeting Chinese President Xi Jinping on Beijing shortly after. Poland's 6-month leadership of the EU Council, its second stint in charge, will focus on boosting security and defence under the slogan Security Europe, Warsaw has said. Yeah, so the relationship has really, really soured between them. And, you know, more and more I just feel like it would just make all the logical sense in the world if Hungary were kicked out. But I don't think there's a process, a due process to do it properly and fairly to kick them out, if I'm honest, guys. At least not a right way to do in doing so. But then they are pretty much like, they are really like the naughty kids Hungary when it comes to the European Union family. That is for sure. But yeah, I do wonder what's the benefit of Hungary holding on to him, you know, when they're already making relationships worse for what it is. But we will wait and see, I suppose. I'm sure more will come of this as time goes on, guys. So, guys, we're about halfway through the world's news round here. We've got 3 more stories to cover here and we're going to just break the ice a little bit, as we say. Have a bit of a funny video to kind of just lighten the mood a little bit, because all this news, you know, some of this news can be quite downplaying, you know, when we cover videos like this. So I hope you guys enjoy this funny YouTube video. It's an old one here from the YouTube channel called Foil Arms and Hog. Link for the YouTube channel will be in the description. Do check them out. If you're not subscribed to their channel, please do consider subscribing. They do amazing funny content just like this one here. The headline for this one is "Getting Past New Zealand Immigration." So apparently they're going to tell us how you get past New Zealand immigration. Okay.
Before granting you entry to Aotearoa, I just have a few simple questions. It's just a formality. What is the most expensive ad campaign run by the New Zealand Tourist Board?
The Lord of the Rings.
Correct. Name all 3 types of kiwi.
Kiwi, and kiwi.
Correct. Name a famous New Zealand wine.
That they're always being confused with Australians.
Correct. Who's the first person to summit Mount Everest?
Sir Edmund Hillary's Sherpa.
Correct. What's the biggest underground movement in New Zealand?
Maori cooking.
Correct. New Zealand has a rich musical culture. Can you name one of its talented artists?
Oh, Lord.
Correct. Manuka honey from New Zealand is known for its incredible what?
Price.
Correct. Describe the New Zealand flag.
The Australian flag.
Close enough. What are the 3 official languages of New Zealand?
You got English, Te Reo Maori, and Elvish.
Correct. New Zealand society was famously split in the efforts to stop the spread of what?
Marmite.
Correct. What fish stocks have been all but depleted in New Zealand?
Oh, the chocolate fish.
Correct. Why does the New Zealand rugby team use the metric system to measure a player's height?
Oh, they only deal in absolute units.
Correct. And finally, where in the South Island are Foil Arms and Hog playing?
We're not.
You're not.
No,
No,
we're just
you
playing
didn't
the
bother.
North
Yeah, just playing the
Island.
North like everybody else. Nobody comes to the bloody South Island. You know, up there with the Jaffers and the Wellies. Yeah, you think that's?
I told you we shouldn't have flown into the south.
They were doing at the time when they put this out. They were doing a tour in New Zealand. So that's what that last one is about there. But yeah, do check out their channel, and if they ever do a tour near you, it's worth it's definitely worth going to, guys. They definitely are a bundle of fun, that is for sure. Guys, just before I go to the next article, I'll remind you, if you haven't already, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. And share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. Help me get to over 2,000 subscribers. It'd be greatly appreciated. I would like to get to 2,500 by the end of the year. That is the goal for 2025. So if you can help me get there, it would be greatly appreciated, that goal as well. Also, if you want to go one step further and financially support me in the work that I do here, one of my main sources of income is from this YouTube channel, and the best way you can support me and the work that I do here, and if you are an advocate supporter of this channel, then one of the better ways, if you can, is by financially supporting me, is by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. It may not sound like a lot, but it really does make a massive difference, and it does support the work I do here. Being a YouTube member gets you access to custom emojis. It also gets you access to members community posts, and whenever you comment on any of my videos, whatever it is, you will get a response back from me. Sometimes it takes a couple of days for me to respond, but I always respond to YouTube members, those who are financially supporting me and this channel. And if you decide to upgrade to a $1.99 membership, it's an additional £1 if you choose to decide to upgrade to that. You will get early access to additional content, so content that I've produced and upload before it becomes available on the usual scheduled time. It will be available to you immediately if you are a $1.99 member. So thank you very much for anyone who is a member or is considering the membership. It is greatly appreciated. It does make a massive difference. Other ways you can financially support me as well is by buying me a coffee. as well. A link for that is in the links tree description. If you click the links tree in the description down below, it takes you to all my social media links. And you could also check out the Patreon as well, where you get access to exclusive content on there as well. So there's exclusive content on Patreon you can check out as well as on the Rumble page as well. I do separate content on Rumble to here on YouTube. And do consider checking out our Discord community, which is free to join as well. Link for that is in the description. So thank you to anyone who has listened. It is greatly appreciated. Right, moving on to the next story, guys. One of many crises that are taking place in Ireland in particular is homelessness. And this one is from RTE, you guys. So over 15,000 access emergency and accommodation in November. So as somebody who, I don't really cover a lot of Irish news, but one of the things that I've been, and I really should cover more of this, if I'm honest, is a guilty thing because I am part Irish and I do care about what happens in Ireland. And considering the housing crisis that they have been for decades, there has been a sadly and unfortunate housing crisis situation in Ireland where the current generation coming up simply cannot afford a home. They cannot buy a home with the incomes that they earn. Houses just cost too much, and they're stuck living with their parents or family because they just cannot afford a home, and it's just absolutely insane. So how are they supposed to buy a home? And this is something that successive Irish governments have not been able to figure out. And you also have this situation, especially as the next family, as the next generation moves on over time, it's, younger generations are getting squeezed, and they're having to turn to rented accommodation. If the rents are too high, which they are in many places, especially in the capital in Dublin, then you end up in a situation where many of them could end up becoming homelessness. And the situation now has reached over 15,000 people have accessed emergency accommodation in November. Just a month away from Christmas, and it's horrible. It's horrible to hear that. We have a homelessness crisis here in the UK, in England in particular, and it's bad enough there. We know that there's a terrible, horrible homelessness situation in America and other places, parts of the world, and my heart goes out to the people in Ireland because, I feel that a lot of people who are homeless are not because of acts of their own doing, but because of decisions made or circumstances done beyond their control, that no matter how hard you work, you still can't catch a break. You still can't get a decent accommodation for yourself, no matter how hard you work. And it's heartbreaking. It's deeply frustrating, and people should not have to work 60, 70, 80 plus hours just to be able to try and put a roof under their head. And even when they do, they just barely make the scratch mark to do a living. It's not right. Homelessness figures have risen again, with more than 15,000 people accessing emergency accommodation, according to the latest data from the Department of Housing. A total of 15,199 people accessed emergency accommodation in November, a rise of 233 people in the previous month. 15,000 people in Ireland. There has also been a small increase in the number of children who are homeless, and some 4,658 children were in emergency accommodation between the 18th of November and the 24th, an increase of 13 on the previous month figures. The latest figures show that the number of people in emergency accommodation is at a record high. A total of 1,524 families in Dublin access emergency accommodation, of which 834 were single-parent families. Nationwide, a total of 2,168 families access emergency accommodation, of which 1,252 were single-parent families. The Department of Housing official homelessness statistics are published on a monthly basis and refer to the number of homeless persons accommodation in emergency accommodation funding and overseen by housing authorities during specific count week. Focus Ireland said the new record is 15,199 people now homeless. Must act as a wake-up call for parties currently negotiating to form a government. Yeah, and still at this time, since the Irish election, the government still hasn't been formed. They're still negotiating the coalition for it. The charity's director, Mike Allen, said the figures are a harsh reminder that a government sidestepping the issue will not be an option. He also reiterated the widespread concern that for those sleeping rough as temperatures drop below zero this week. Mr. Allen said building more homes is critical, and it's positive to see cross-party agreement on much more ambitious targets for home building. However, contrary to what most party leaders seem to think, housing supply alone will not solve the homelessness crisis. We need to prioritise and support people who are homelessness into new homes. And it comes as the 2024 winter count of people sleeping rough in Dublin region found that the majority were Irish males aged between 26 and 45 years old. This is your working class people. This is supposed to be your workforce here, 26 to 45. You know, that's people who are literally in their prime, and they're spending their time and they're stuck on the streets because the jobs that they've worked are just cannot afford them a proper home. The official count for the Dublin region homeless executive was carried out by Dublin Simon Community Outreach Team over the week of the 4th to the 10th of November across the 4 Dublin local authorities. There were 134 people confirmed as rough sleepers during that week, representing an increase of 16 in the same period last year. The Dublin Region Homeless Executive, the DRHE, found that 43% were using tents while others were not, while 17% were also included in the spring call. 12 people were included in the winter call, in which the DRHE said highlights the need for an increase in the number of couple beds. The figure does not include the International Protection Accommodation Service, the IPAS clients, as they are under the remit of the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth. The DHRE said the purpose of the call is to gather information on the patterns of rough sleeping, identify chronic rough sleepers for the Housing First programme and health and or accommodation needed for each individual. The DHRE added that rough sleeping will remain a serious problem due to lack of access to housing to help support people to exit homelessness. Dublin Simons is calling for a commitment from the government to invest in preventable measures, to fast track building social and affordable housing, and to recognise the need for tailored support that directly meets needs of those experiencing homelessness. While the call was carried out by the Dublin Simon Community Outreach Team, additional outreach workers were deepened to ensure intense coverage of city centre areas. Staff in all 4 Dublin local authorities in Al-Ghalida, Sinoshanga, if I mispronounced the name, I apologise, provided additional information about people who were rough sleeping, especially those in isolated areas. The DHRE said that the rough sleeping count, while an important exercise in understanding the scope of the homelessness in Dublin, does not encompass the entirety of the issue. The CEO of Dublin Simon Community, Catherine Kennedy, said, "We are alarmed by the rise in rough sleeping numbers in Dublin over the last 12 months. This is particularly concerning given the extremely cold conditions across the country and the multi-hazard weather event experts over the weekend and into the next week. Combined with the thousands in emergency accommodation in the capital alone, the growing number of people without a place to call home represents a crisis that is only getting worse. These figures are more than just numbers. These are people forced in to endure unimaginable hardships, particularly in the coldest month of the year." This is the thing that we're talking about. This is people in their prime, where they're supposed to be at their absolute peak of their lives, 26 and 45, and they're spending it on the streets. And I get it, like, governments take time to negotiate and form, but something should be done here. It's disgraceful. It is shameful. It's shameful. It is so shameful that a generation are being let down here. It's so shameful. The Irish people deserve better here. They deserve so much better than this. So much better than this. And it really does break my heart to hear this, to see people on those streets. Like I've always said this about people who are homeless. People don't choose to be homeless. People don't choose to have nothing. A lot of it is circumstances beyond their control. No matter how hard they work in their job, they're just not getting the money that comes in. The wages just aren't there to match their living standards. That's the problem. Wages you need to be able to get a job so that your wages are able to put a roof under your head, to be able to provide you with clothes that you can wear, to provide you with basic needs. Yeah, a single person should be able to get a decent job, and with that decent job, that basic rate of pay, whatever it may be, should be enough for a home, to be able to buy food, to be able to put clothes on your shelves, to be able to have to be able to have showers, to be able to heat your home, to be able to have basic necessities. This should be the bog standard for every single country on the planet. But instead, not even couples can afford homes, even on basic wages together. And even when me and my partner are a prime example of that. Me and my partner, right? Before I was doing this, and I was earning a lot more money with my last job. And her job is pretty. She gets a good amount of money for her job that she's done. And even with our combined money, right? Even with our combined money, when I look at the bills now here in the UK, right? And this is the thing, right? If we weren't living together, if we wasn't together during those times, there's no way we could live. There's no way we could live in a single. We can't live in a home on our own. Just wouldn't be able to afford it. Just barely wouldn't be able to afford it. But even together, like I think about it, how much the costs were then compared to now, for all these things, and it's still a struggle. We'd barely be able to save. If not, probably not, we'd be able to save at all. And I'm just thinking, why is this being allowed to happen? Why is this happening? Why are people allowing this to happen? It's not right. It's not right. And like I said, these people have done nothing wrong. Just like these homeless people here in Ireland. Just like the homelessness here in the UK. Just like the homelessness in America. It's not their fault. They just need to be given a decent wage to be able to and they should be able to afford a decent home. But they can't be given that. It's a failure of governments, of leaders, to look after people. And it's a shame. It's a great shame on humanity. It's just shameful. I just hope the government gets a grip on this, but I really don't have much faith, if I'm honest, guys. The next story I have for you is from the Kiev Independent. It's the latest news in the war in Russia. So Russia's attack against Ukraine killed 2 and injured at least 13 over the past day. So a Russian attack against Ukraine killed 2 people and injured at least 13 over the past day, regional authorities have said on the 3rd of January. Ukrainian forces downed 60 out of 93 drones, including Shalar-type drones launched by Russia overnight, the Air Force has reported. Another 26 drones were lost added. The wreckage of downed Russian drones killed a truck driver born in 1999 in Kiev Oblast overnight, the acting governor Myskova has said. Debris also damaged a house near the town of Biliteska, causing a fire and injuring 2 people, including a 16-year-old boy. According to the State Emergency Service, 1 more woman suffered injuries from the attack in the near Fiskal in the region. 1 person was killed in the town of Chaskivar, and Donetsk Oblast Governor Vladimir Fushkin has said. And in Kherson Oblast, Russian forces targeted 39 settlements, including the regional centre of Kherson. 10 people were injured, Governor Oskar Pushkin had reported. Russian forces also carried out an airstrike on residential areas in the city of Sumy on the morning of January the 3rd. No casualties have been reported so far. Search and rescue operations are still ongoing here. Yeah, this is so. I'm just going to just highlight this one as well for you guys. Russian missile attack in Chernihiv kills 1 people and injures 4. This is one of the latest ones here. Russia launched a ballistic missile on Chernihiv on the 3rd of January, killing 1 person and injuring 4 others. Chernihiv Oblast Governor Vladimir Charles has said. The attack targeted a residential area in the outskirts of Chernihiv, causing significant damage to multiple apartment buildings. He has said. Ukrainian Air Force have warned of the incoming ballistic missile attack early in the day. Search and rescue operations are ongoing. Chernihiv Oblast, situated in Ukraine's northern border of Russia, was particularly occupied during the early stages of Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022. Although Russian forces withdrew from the region in April 2022, Chernihiv remains under near daily attacks due to its proximity to the border there. So those are some of the stories that are taking place at the moment from the war in Ukraine. I will cover more on Tuesday probably when it comes to the conflict here. we did cover quite a extensive bit on it on the Snowflake Corner as well, but there's a summer. But still, every day, innocent Ukrainians are injured or becoming casualties of war as a result of Russia's aggression into Ukrainian territory with its attacks. And my hope, and that is many other people's hopes, is that there will be peace between Ukraine and Russia by the end of this year. That is my hope. That is my that I want. I would, I've said this before. I'd rather if Ukraine had all its territory back, but I do not think that's going to happen. But at this point, if it means that Ukraine can have peace, I think that's really one of the most important things. I think it really, really does need to happen. I really does hope it does come to pass, guys. I really do. But I'm not going to hold my breath on that either, guys. The last story I have for you here is from South America. And it's been a while since we talked a bit about Venezuela. So Venezuela offers a reward for a candidate's arrest. So Venezuela's government has offered $100,000, that's £81,000 reward, for information leading to the arrest of opposition exiled presidential candidate Emmanuel Gonzalez. So this is, let me be very clear about this. So they had an election last year. It was a rigged election. I will not hear anything else otherwise. It was a rigged election by Venezuela. Nicolas Maduro rigged the election to win. Emmanuel Gonzalez was the rightful winner, and there were legal ballots to prove it. They refused. The Venezuelan government and its president had refused independent verifiers to verify his position that he had won the presidency, even though clearly he did not. When people tried to rise up and overthrow, I wouldn't say overthrow, but they tried to protest the situation, they were slammed down by government forces, by the military, basically. So many Venezuelans have fled the country and tried to migrate to America as a direct result of this action. Many people in Venezuela are now living in fear. And Emmanuel Gonzalez, who has done absolutely nothing wrong, they are made up basically stories to have him, made up crimes against him to have him arrested, basically. This is about taking on anyone who is a political opposition to the president, will basically have a made up story made about them, and then they'll basically be thrown in prison. This is the situation that is happening here. So he fled the country in September and was granted political asylum in Spain after Venezuela's authorities ordered his arrest, accusing Gonzalez of conspiring and of forging documents. Again, this is all made up from them. Gonzalez had vowed to return to Venezuela before President Nicolas Maduro's inauguration next Friday, accusing the government of rigging the vote. So he's vowed to return to Venezuela. So he knows he's putting himself at risk if he does. Shortly after the reward was announced, Gonzalez said he was traveling to Argentina to begin the tour of Latin America, where he will meet fierce Maduro critic President Javier Mendy on Saturday. The United Nations Human Rights Committee has ordered Venezuela to refrain from destroying the voting tallies from the presidential election in July 2024. Well, clearly they're not going to keep to it. The voting tallies, a detailed official breakdown of the votes from each polling station, have been at the centre of dispute over who won the election. The government-aligned National Election Council, the CNE, declared the incumbent, Maduro, the winner, but failed to provide the voting tallies to back up its claim. This is the problem. The opposition, with the help of accredited election witnesses, collected and published more than 80% of the voting tallies, said that these proved that its candidate, Gonzalez, was the overwhelming winner. Gonzalez is not well known in Venezuela when he registered as a candidate for the country's presidential election back in March. He has never run for public office before and is not even widely known in opposition circles. But months after he decided to run for the top office, the low-key former diplomat overtook Maduro in opinion polls. Venezuela has seen division between government and opposition supporters get even deeper over the past decade or so. Gonzalez's reconciliation tone during the presidential campaign was in stark contrast to that of Maduro's, who warned of a bloodbath should Gonzalez win. The 2018 re-election Maduro was widely dismissed as neither free nor fair. And this is the situation in Venezuela. I mean, if he does, I really do think, if he steps back in the country, they will try to target him, they'll try to find him, and they will try to arrest him. And hopefully that will not happen. But as long as Maduro has the power, as long as the army follows him, He can do whatever he wants. The other thing as well, I should point out as well, when after the elections, when there were protests and whatnot, because this was pointed out to me by others as well, was that Morado hired a lot of mercenaries. He hired a lot of mercenaries from other autocratic nations such as Cuba to assist in the crackdown of protesters and those trying to stand defiant against Morado, which is why there's very little protest against the government, because of fear of reprisal. People have disappeared as well. A lot of protesters were made to disappear, so it's been pretty brutal for people in Venezuela, unfortunately. And I don't know if the country will ever find democracy or any kind of a government or a leader that they want. It may take a coup in order for them to do so, but unfortunately that is the situation that they are in, I'm afraid. So guys, we are nearly an hour in. I have one more funny video to see ourselves out before we wrap up all the world's news round. So I hope you guys enjoy this funny video from Larry and Paul's YouTube channel. I think it's quite fitting considering we are in a new year with new opportunities and new hopes and new beginnings. And what better way for us to go into the new year than to be told of a happy new year. Same old rubbish, says a shocking report from Larry and Paul. Let's hear what they have to say, guys.
Welcome to Broken News. Lower your expectations. The public have been told not to be too optimistic about the forthcoming year. The warning comes in a major new report looking ahead to the next 12 months. Our reporter reports on that report.
For many, it's a time of hope, a time for new beginnings. But this report has warned the new year will most likely be chock full of the same old shit. It says that energy prices will continue to go up to protect the profits of massive companies, and billionaires will continue to control everything while squeezing what they can out of the world's poorest people. Politicians will continue to be big old corrupt arseholes, won't be held to account, and they'll resist any attempt to make voting systems fairer. Client journalists will soldier on with weak propaganda, the tabloid press will carry on being gutter-dwelling shitbags, and thick racists will resume shouting loudly about really stupid stuff they read on Facebook. Some of your favourite celebrities will die, yet the worst arseholes and grifters will live on, finding new and improved ways to make the world incrementally intolerable. The report authors claim your football team will be crapper than you hoped, the referee will be biased, and VAR will be as reliable as a Northern Rail service to literally fucking anywhere. The report also says that the weather won't be as good as you hope on the day you've got something big planned. You'll have a holiday that's overpriced and stressful, and you'll only get ill at weekends and bank holidays. Back to you.
What a lovely story. That's all from Broken News. You're up to date.
Happy New Year, folks. Do check out Larry and Paul's YouTube channel. Subscribe to their YouTube channel, and do follow them on on their other social medias as well, if you can do. I think they're on Twitter, Blue Sky, and maybe one or two and other platforms as well. But do check out whenever they go, wherever you can. They are absolutely fantastic, and do like and comment on their videos. That Happy New Year video was not from this last year. It's from the year before when the Conservatives were in power, just for reference there as well. But yeah, Happy New Year. Same old crap, guys, same old crap. So guys, what did you make of some of the stories of the world's news round we covered today? We covered a variety of different stories, talking about possible talks, ceasefire talks possibly resuming between Israel and Hamas. French and German foreign ministers meeting with Syria's leaders. Obviously, the first foreign ministers to meet with them. Obviously, the polling around the polling of what Republicans trust in the accuracy of U.S. elections. That was from the Association Press. Poland and Hungary clearly not friendly with each other as well. Talking about the terrible situation with regards to homelessness in Ireland and even in general, as I mentioned earlier on. and talking about some of the attacks that have been taking place in the war in Ukraine as well. And then finally, of course, we were talking about Venezuela and the situation that is there, the situation that is taking place there with Morado as well. Let me know your thoughts and more on all these stories down in the comment section below. If you can, it would be greatly appreciated. But just before I go, let's just see the gang behind me. For those who don't know, behind me we have a team that is following me, so it's not just me. We have the team of Ollie the octopus, Pingu the penguin, and Cash Dummy the cookie monster. They are overwatchers from behind. I know the screen's a little bit fuzzy, but Ollie has turned off the orb again. I don't know when he's going to turn it back on, but if I just pull this down, you should be able to see the orb in all of its glory. There you go. You can see the orb in all of its glory. Okay, it hasn't fully formed, but it's doing pretty well for itself, guys. There. So, thank you very much for watching along. But just before I go, I have one last thing to say. If you haven't already, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated. And share this across social media so others are notified of this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me and the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or you can join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.